A lease is a contract between you and the landlord that outlines your rights and responsibilities as a tenant, as well as those of the landlord. A tenant has rights even without a written lease, but it's best to have one. If you have a lease, it's important to read and understand it before signing it. Once it's signed, keep a copy in a safe place. If you negotiate anything with the landlord, like a lower rent, repairs or improvements, the right to have a pet, a parking space, make sure it's written clearly in the version of the lease that you and the landlord sign. Every landlord is required to keep the home in livable and safe condition, even if that's not written in the lease. Key lease terms. Here are some key aspects of a lease to understand. The term is the length of the lease, how long you have a right to live in the home, and how long you are promising to pay rent. Some leases have a renewal option. This will usually include how much notice you or the landlord have to give to terminate or end the lease, or if renewal happens automatically. Rent amount. The amount of the monthly rent. This provision may also tell you when the rent is due, for example, on the 1st or 5th of the month. Late fees. The lease will also tell you if there is a late fee and when rent becomes late. Security deposits. Most leases will require a security deposit from the tenant. The lease should specify the amount of the deposit. Authorized occupants. The lease will identify who or how many people are permitted to live in the home. There may also be a guest provision that says how long someone else is allowed to stay over. Pets and pet deposits. The lease will tell you if you are allowed to have a pet and whether you have to pay a deposit or fee if you do. The law usually protects the right to have a service animal in a home for people with disabilities or mental illness, regardless of what the lease says. Other obligations. The lease will say who is responsible for other important things, like who pays for which utilities, who can use parking spaces, who removes garbage, and more. Communication with landlord. The lease should set out how to report problems with the unit to the landlord and when and how the landlord is permitted to access and inspect the unit. Insurance. The lease may require the tenant to purchase renter's insurance. If you have questions about your lease, reach out to Legal Aid of West Virginia, ideally before you sign a new lease. If your landlord won't give you a written lease or there are any red flags, please give us a call. You can apply for free legal help by calling Legal Aid of West Virginia at 1-866-255-4370 or apply online at legalaidwv.org.